Okay, let's take a few minutes and talk about negative exponents. The rule for negative exponents says that any non-zero number raised to a negative power is equal to 1 divided by that number raised to the opposite or positive power. So let's apply the rule to 5 to the negative third power. The rule says that it would be equal to 1 divided by 5 to the positive 3 power, which we can simplify to 1 over 125. So let's take a look at why that works. Let's start with 5 to the third power. We know that 5 to the third power means 5 times 5 times 5, which is equal to 125. If we drop down 1 on the exponent, we have 5 to the second power, which means 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. If we go with 5 to the first power, we know that means that 5 is only used as a factor once, so 5 to the first power is equal to 5. We've proven already that 5 to the 0 power, or any number to the 0 power for that matter of fact, is equal to 1. If we stop and look at patterns, well, we already know the pattern on the side with the exponents. We were going down or subtracting 1 each time on the exponent, okay, to get to our next number. Over here, if we look for a pattern, we can see that 125 divided by 5 is equal to 25, that 25 divided by 5 is equal to 5, and that 5 divided by 5 is equal to 1. If we continue that pattern, we would have 5 to the 0 power minus 1, which would make it 5 to the negative 1 power. And this would be, according to the rule, would be 1 divided by 5 to the first power, which would be the same as 1/5. So let's take a look at this. 1 divided by 5 is 1/5, 1 divided by 5. Let's go ahead and continue this pattern. If we keep subtracting 1 from the exponent, we would be at 5 to the negative 2 power, which according to the rule would be 1 over 5 to the second power. And we know that 1/5 divided by 5 is equal to 1 over 25. Let's go one more time and we can prove if our example was correct. Let's go with 5 to the negative 3 power. Well, according to the rule, that would be 1 divided by 5 to the third power. If we continue our pattern over here, 1 over 25 divided by 5 would be equal to 1 over 125. Let's look at a few examples before we move on. Our first example is 10 to the negative 4 power. Well, our rule says that would be equal to 1 over 10 to the fourth power, and we can simplify that to 1 over 10,000. Our next one would be 5 plus 4, that sum raised to the second power. Well, let's take care of the sum first. So that would be 9 raised to the negative 2 power, which would be the same as 1 over 9 to the second power, which is equal to 1 over 81. Let's take a look at another one. This one has negative 3 in parentheses. Now let's remember the difference between negative 3 in a parenthesis raised to a power and negative 3 without the parenthesis. On this one, we just follow our integer rules when multiplying. So this one would be the same thing as 1 over negative 3 raised to the fourth power. We know that when it's in parentheses, we follow our integer rules. And an exponent, if the exponent is even, we'll have a positive product. If the exponent is odd, we'll have a negative. So this one would be 1 over 81. On the next one, the negative 3 without the exponents, we know that the product will always be negative. So this would be 1 over negative 3 to the fourth power. When we simplify that, we would have 1 over negative 81. I hope this helps a little bit. And As always, ask questions if you need any more help.